Yes, we are back here once again at AWS Sydney Summit. It is now 4:15 in the afternoon, Sydney time, and we're still going strong down here, so if you are here at the event, please come down and visit us at the Summit Live stage. But due to popular demand, we have again Paul Miglione, who's the Managing Director for ANZ. Paul, you had an awesome session with us yesterday. You actually brought a family down as well yesterday, but I noticed that they're not here today. Were you afraid they were going to throw some more balls and cause an injury this time around?
You know, Dean, they were offended mortally yesterday by your pronunciation of my surname.
And I just butchered it today.
And I'm really pleased to see you haven't improved.
Awesome.
So they're not down for a second day. No, look, it was, you know, we're passionate about skills here and we're passionate about education. And for me, having my daughter and her buddies from school, 11-year-old girls down here, and seeing the degree to which they engaged in what was happening here was wonderful. Really
That's
wonderful.
amazing.
They were pumped, and I've had notes for their parents. They came back with a whole raft of stories. They were jazzed about Canva and all the stuff they saw in robotics and incredible leaders like Lisa from Canva and Grania from Lion. So hopefully we got a few converts there. And the only thing I'm never going to live down is my 11-year-old throwing things at me for the best part of 15 minutes. And for some reason, she thinks she can continue to do that.
Really?
Dad, good morning. Dad.
By the way, you did have the highest number of questions from the audience. So
Is
by
that
the way,
right?
for those that are watching, highly interactive. If you have any questions for Paul Migs here, type it in the chat box. But yeah, you had just, for every question, a ball comes flying your way. I think they may have overstretched it a fraction though.
Oh, so there was
More
intent.
questions, more balls being thrown at him. Just to, oh, we got one.
Oh, there you go.
Oh. There we go.
What's your favorite dog? What's your favorite dog's name?
Well, I've got a little dog. His name's Rex. He's a complete lunatic.
Rex.
Yeah, he's a Kelpie Dachshund cross, which means he's territorial. He barks like crazy.
He thinks he's a big dog, but he's a small dog.
He has a little dog thing going on, exactly. But he's cool. I love it.
I have that too, which is why I'm on a box right now.
So Paul, listen, so we had some really interesting things at the keynote this morning. One that kind of really hit home, being very much Australian, is the beach. And I know you like to go surfing.
Yeah.
You and I have both gone surfing, in fact, at one point. I've learned a lot from you.
I think I was moderately more stylish than you on a surfboard for the 2 to 3 seconds I was able to stand up to. By the way, just saying.
Anyhow, we had some really interesting things around detection of some nasty creatures floating in the ocean. Do you want to maybe tell the audience about some of those interesting things that we're doing with innovation?
There were 2 types of nasty creatures we talked about this morning. So the first, by the way, was before we get into that, I mean, isn't it just incredible how many Australian startups are killing it at the moment? You know, and we've seen a bunch of them today. And through this summit,
it is incredible.
It is incredible, right? Baraha the other day. This morning we heard from a startup called Casada. It's a security business. They're helping with bot detection, kind of revolutionizing bot detection, bot protection. 23-year-old founder.
Amazing, isn't it?
23-year-old founder up in front of 8,000 people in keynote. And my goodness, he killed it.
He nailed it, right?
He nailed it. They've just done an A round. They're going to do amazing things.
Yep.
So that's the first set of bad guys.
Yes, correct.
The second set of bad guys was...
And they could be global, by the way. They don't have to be in the ocean, right? They could
Right.
be anyone in the
Lots of bad...
Yeah.
I think he called them bad actors.
Bad actors,
Do you like
indeed.
that technical term? Do you like that technical
Love
bad
it, Paul.
actors?
Love it. You can have my job.
But what we loved was Little Ripper. So, I mean, we've talked a lot about robotics and the application of machine learning. It's SageMaker. But seeing it applied in a real-world context was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, for those viewers who aren't in Australia, we've got a big coastline here.
Massive.
Some pretty treacherous surf. So surf lifesaving is a big focus for us. The challenge is that there's a lot of coastline to cover, and actually there's a lot of people get themselves into trouble.
I think they said it's only like 200 beaches that we get to cover.
Yeah.
We have another
way more beaches
question.
We have way more beaches than that.
Yeah.
We got another question.
We have another question for the live audience. Dougie Hauser asked, what was your favorite saying growing up? Doogie Howser.
Doogie Howser was. I have no
That's
idea.
some pop culture reference that I probably don't get.
Yeah,
We're showing our age, right?
I was going to dab or something just to try to be cool.
Oh,
but
I think age is irrelevant for me when it comes to pop culture. I don't even know the ones from my generation.
yeah, I'm just going to feed off my 11-year-old and hope I get away with it. No, but drones. And so this drone basically can track. It got to a distressed swimmer in 70 seconds.
70 seconds from launch.
Unbelievable. Drop down an inflatable rescue thing, whatever it's called. I'm sure it had a technical
Life
term.
raft,
Life raft.
inflatable. Which one, what got me was they had like what 15 or 17 different innovations around how to design it. So it's not just a drone thing; it's also all the extra gadgetry.
To suit that use case, right?
Yeah.
And then they were using computer vision to detect sharks.
Yep.
And there was this great image where you had this surfer swimming through the water with two sharks. It's like that was perilous. Another question.
Live audience.
Yes.
Sarah Paynes asked, what was the first job you had?
Oh, so my first job, my first sort of proper kind of job, was me and a mate ran a nightclub. So we found
nightclub?
Yeah. So we found this. We had this empty night. We're at uni, and none of us had any money. And so we went and pitched to this local nightclub that we'd fill it up with other poor uni students if they gave us free drinks, and they did. And so for 2 years, we basically got free drinks. We didn't earn any money, but the drinks were free.
Nice.
And you were the coolest guys in town.
Well, we thought so.
All right, so we have another question. Skull Crusher for Life wants to know, how does the adoption of AI/ML of the public sector differ from the private sector?
I don't think there's a huge amount of difference, frankly. I mean, the same basic set of problems are being tackled. I mean, I think in the public sector we're seeing all sorts of really interesting problems being solved to transform the citizen experience as we are in the private sector. We've heard tons of great SageMaker stories this week.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Car sales was a good one, right? And they talked this morning about what life was like pre and post SageMaker, where they're actually building their own algorithms, and then it was revolutionised with SageMakers because they could do it a whole lot more quickly. F1 talked about it. There's a bunch of great stories, and we're seeing it in the public sector too. So, we're just loving that tons of developers all over Australia are deploying ML against interesting problems.
And even in IoT as well, right? We spoke, Rugby Australia spoke this morning, and hopefully we'll get that competitive edge to bring the cup home at the end of this year.
Go Wallabies!
Against the Kiwis, the All Blacks, we need all the help we can get, to be honest.
Absolutely.
So we had a staff WhatsApp group this morning, and the only rule was that if any Kiwis piped up on that staff WhatsApp group, basically their tenure at Amazon was going to be very limited, very limited. But hopefully the Wallabies will turn things around soon.
And how cool is it to have an Irish guy wearing a Wallaby shirt talking about how it's helping the Wallabies win?
Yeah, it was sort of cool.
Yeah.
Question for you from the live audience. Dorothy Wiz wants to know, when did you first hear about serverless?
I first heard about serverless on the 1st of September 2015, which is the day after I joined, and then I understood it about 3 years later.
You have another question also from Twitch. Nosh Fordow says, tell us more about these waves. So are these bad actors surfers, and why do you guys need to detect sharks?
The surfers aren't bad actors. The sharks can be bad actors, and the idea is that these drones can detect sharks early enough and get the surfers out of the water. The bad actors that I was talking about are these bots that Casada's protecting against. And thanks for pulling me up on the technical term. I was feeling pretty smart using that term. Now I don't feel so smart anymore.
Although some surfers can be bad actors, especially when they're heading towards you and they're not getting out of the way.
Yeah, right.
And you have to duck dive under.
And so what else have you seen today, specifically, Migs, in terms of highlights, maybe talking with customers or walking around the expo hall here?
One of the cool things about Summit, and I'd say this is the case for the last few years, is that it's morphed into something of a big cloud get-together, big tech innovation get-together, and what we see is all of the best innovations in the country on show. And it all comes together, and you see the full spectrum of it, everything from Qantas and the CEO, they're using IoT to revolutionise operational fleet planning, all the way through to organisations like Casada. And it really hits you in the face just how much incredible stuff is happening right here in Australia. We talk ourselves down. Paul Bassett put it well. We have the most inspired, entrepreneurial, big thinkers here. With what's going on, we're going to see a whole lot more. The thing that for me stood out most is we talk a lot about skills. And I think we all understand the importance of skills, not just to the organisations we represent, but I think to Australia. And we hosted Student Track this week, and where we have 500 students from around New South Wales, minimum 50% gender diverse. And what we're trying to do is inspire these young high school kids towards a career in tech. And there was a wonderful story where there was a group of autistic kids that were, can you give me a minute? Can you give me a minute?
Yeah,
can you give me a minute? Group of autistic kids were doing this Sphero coding exercise. And one of the autistic kids won. And one of our team looked over, and this young boy's dad was crying. And he said, and we said, why? And he said, well, he'd never seen his child able to collaborate with other kids before, nor had he ever seen him win anything, right? And so he was so inspired seeing the way his son was participating in that. And that's, that was awesome, you know, particularly for everyone was there, just seeing these young kids, particularly some that were, mildly disabled, really pumped up about what tech could mean, and they're all in this world. So that was cool.
That is just pull at the heartstrings, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, and then to give other kids the opportunity to see somebody do that, make it appear as it is possible.
Yeah.
If you never see it, you might never aspire to it. So
totally. And these young girls, they saw Lisa Green from Canva, and they're like, goodness, that could be me, right? This unbelievable entrepreneurial success story, like revolutionizing design globally.
Yeah.
Grania Kearns leading this huge technology transformation in one of the biggest companies in the country, just inspired to see these role models on show.
Exactly. If there's one word I could say about this entire summit, even getting goosebumps now, it's inspirational, right?
Yeah.
It really was set the tone on the day one, on Innovation Day, with Dr. George Nenjuin. With
Wasn't he great?
Ryan.
Wasn't he great?
That was awesome.
Wasn't he great?
Yeah.
Because none of us are doing this because we just love the bits and bytes, right? We're doing this because we want to deliver meaningful stuff.
Exactly.
Right?
Meaningful change to people.
And you're seeing meaningful stuff everywhere. Define whatever context you want, insert here, but it's happening everywhere and it's all on show. Isn't it fun?
Yep.
It's great fun.
Beautiful.
Yep.
All right.
Okay,
Question.
you got me.
Name your favorite 90s reference. Seinfeld? George Costanza.
So my favourite thing, and I don't have a wallet anymore because I had a Costanza wallet. I'm a hoarder, and my wallet just went thicker and thicker and thicker. So I had this bulge kind of so big out the back of my pocket. So I called it the Costanza. And he is my absolute favourite TV character of all times, George Costanza.
There you go.
There you go.
And so what about specifically developers? You spoke about inspiring the young getting into technology. We have a lot of developers out there. What would you say to the developers out there and the impact or the potential that impact they could have in the ANZ environment and in terms of innovation?
Yeah, well, I think you guys agree, we've got one of the coolest community of devs in Australia globally, without a question of a doubt. 50,000 users across ANZ user groups, amazing. We had 4,000 at our Dev Day in Melbourne.
We had a developer night last night.
Yeah, developer night. What was it, 400 or so people listening to Adrian Cockcroft, which is pretty cool. And people are really energized. And the one thing I would say, and I wouldn't say do it because they're doing it, but perhaps do more of it. Let's think big, right?
Yep.
Like devs here push us really hard. We want to build great stuff. We all know that the service teams at AWS want to hear from the best developers. They want to be pushed to build new stuff. So let's think big about what we can build and push our service teams to build really cool stuff for them.
Let's do it. All right, I have a question. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
You want to go? This is a legitimate question.
So is this one, apparently.
This is a real question.
So
what are you telling me about the other question?
The live audience is a very interesting crowd at the minute. Skull Crusher for Life wants to know, what's the most interesting problem some of the younger technologists have tried to solve using SageMaker?
Oh.
Legitimate question.
There we go.
I want to put it to you guys. What have you seen?
So I had my kids actually play with it. I have two boys, and we had a go at building a bit of a model around detecting Darth Vader. So classification, very basic sort of stuff, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I don't have kids.
You don't have kids?
No, I don't have kids.
You get off
No,
rightly.
me either.
No one's throwing balls at you.
It's all you.
You're out.
All right, next question.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been with us for a while, Migs, at Inside AWS. So the question is from Jimmy Suggy. Name your favorite AWS memory so far.
Well, Jimmy.
Just
Jimmy.
one.
Yeah. What a great question. My favourite AWS memory. Look, I think for me it was getting Ellen Joyce on stage the day before yesterday. Just with a leader like that, talking about the role we've played, helping those guys deliver what they've delivered. For me, that was awesome. It just brings it all home. I'm sure there's many, but that's the first one that springs to mind.
Yeah, the dog story was interesting. Getting chased and
yeah.
All right, next question. Was there one more?
No.
No, I've got a question. So,
Okay.
so in terms of looking to the future, and what we can do here at AWS in ANZ, where do you see the next move or focus for us really to continue to try and exceed our customers' expectations?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You kind of get to a point and you go, wow, there's a lot that's been done.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of customers across Australia and New Zealand, and but I still think we're early. I still think we're early. I mean, one of the things that's happened, I think, in the last 12 to 18 months. Now, digital natives have been building incredible stuff the whole time.
Yeah.
But I think everyone has decided that this is the technology delivery platform for the future, which means we don't talk about if anymore. We just talk about when. We just talk about how big. We just talk about how fast.
Yep.
And so we're really just starting to get into the meat of this, as we start to really accelerate ML, new data architectures, better ingestion and storage, tools like RoboMaker. I just think we're going to start to see platforms get built upon platforms and a real acceleration of innovation. And I can't predict where it's going to go.
Sure.
All I think that we're going to do is going to continue to take direction from customers, hopefully build and iterate as fast as we can in terms of what you guys are looking for, and hopefully continue to lower costs. And if we do that with a bit of luck, we'll continue to do great things together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Important question from the live audience. Declan Tom wants to know, are you a Game of Thrones fan? I also want to know this too.
I am a Game of Thrones fan. My wife, on the other hand, is not, which means I never watch it. But I love it.
Now, I've got a question, and this is not from me, it's from the audience. It's from Laura Croft. Laura, what's your favorite coding language? It wasn't my fault.
What was my answer yesterday? Was it Python? I think it was Python. Or Node.js, one of the two. I switch from
Or
time
you
to time.
could just say, my favorite
Ambidextrous.
language is the one that people pay me to write.
That's a good answer. I'll use that next time.
Awesome.
And so,
thank you, Lara. Thank you for the question.
awesome.
Thank you.
Can't get past it.
Indeed.
And I must say, for someone that didn't know what serverless was until recently,
Last week.
you just rattled off a whole bunch of different technology, so you picked it up pretty quickly.
Oh, geez.
Serverless and me, we're like that.
Right,
we're
right,
like that.
yeah.
I have gone deep on Fargate recently.
Right,
I love Fargate. It's
Spin
my
up your
favorite.
clusters?
I
Awesome.
love it.
Fargate's
Awesome.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna agree
So,
with you on
Paul,
that
quick
one.
question. This is kind of coming to the dying, I guess, hours of the summit here.
You would say dying.
Yeah.
But it's not. But it's
Well,
not.
If you guys could see that, I mean, this place is buzzing.
That's what I was going with this, by the way.
For a dying place.
For
this
dying,
is
yeah.
There's a
really
lot of
busting.
I want to be dying. If this is dying.
If this is dying, let's live this. Let's live it. Let's live it.
Oh, this is a good question.
Go
Okay, did you have one?
on. Not anymore.
Nosh Furdao says, what is the one question you wanted to be asked but wasn't? And what is the answer?
Oh, okay.
Oh. What is the one question I wanted to be asked and wasn't? I have no idea. I have no idea.
There you go.
Is I don't know. Are you having fun? Yes.
Absolutely.
So I've got another question. So we talk about very traditional enterprises and digital new business type or digital native business.
Yep.
Innovating, attracting talent, and obviously it's going to be very competitive amongst organisations, even for
Yep.
us, right?
Yep.
We're always hiring,
Yep.
and it's challenging for us. What do you think, or what advice could you give to organisations, customers, partners, even to our own organisation, of how to maintain, motivate, retain team members?
Yeah, isn't it cool though that great quality talent is sought after? And isn't it cool that we all have to work hard to create environments that enable these people to want to stay? So I think it's a few things. One is you have to create an environment where people get to do great work. I think first and foremost, most people are motivated by the impact they can have in whatever context that is. So you have to do that. You have to take bureaucracy out of the mix. You have to give people access to tools, and you have to enable them to iterate first and foremost. Beyond that, I think it's what are the right logical career paths look like? Are you investing in your people? Are you giving them kind of a longer outlook on what they can be doing, which is a function of investment? But I do think first and foremost it's about creating the environment where great people can really do their best work. And fundamentally, I think if you get that right, you'll not only attract people, you retain them as well.
Awesome. I think that's a perfect way to leave it there.
Absolutely. Migs,
Paul,
thanks for joining us.
Thank
It's
you so
been
much.
so much fun.
Very
Thanks for having
insightful.
me.
I think you outnumbered his number of questions from yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no heads
Brilliant.
were hit with balls.
And Jimmy and Lara were just a pleasure having out.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you.
Keep watching. We'll be back shortly.
All right.